Hello, every folks, and welcome to a bit of a review out of nowhere here for the Retroid 2 Plus. Now, you might be saying, "Wait a minute, this is this is a completely different thing. What are we talking about this Retroid thing?" So, if you weren't aware, I mean, there's quite a few of these like little portable or even allegedly portable, kind of Chinese-made, we turned a cell phone into a Game Boy type situations. And to be honest, most of them had little to no interest to me simply because, I mean, we're talking about situations where somebody was like, hey, I went ahead and I took I took a Switch shell and, slapped a cell phone in there. It's allegedly portable. You can lift it and take it places. And, well, to be honest, that's just completely of no interest to me. So, for years, I've been saying that the three best kind of devices to carry with you if if you're like me and you don't want to use your phone for that kind of stuff, have been the PSP, the PS Vita, and the old style 3DS, like the smaller ones specifically. So, oh wow, this is going great, by the way. But no, so this is the first time I've seen one of these little portable ones that are actually worth the kind of side grade here, so to speak. So here, let me go ahead and leave this one real quick. So this is the kind of the menu for this Retroid thing. Originally, I was going to do just like a whole video review kind of thing, but I felt like this is definitely the more appropriate way to kind of show off what it can do. So this thing, if you're wondering about the size, it's basically smaller than a PSP. It's roughly the size of a kind of a Game Boy Pocket type thing. If you take about an inch off the side of the PSP, it's about the same deal there. Just so you know, this display actually does look a lot better on the device itself. This is because I'm outputting with the HDMI thing. I'm still trying to get this whole visual cleaned up for the purpose of videos and stuff like that, but either way, you can you can get a whole bunch of different tweaks going for this. And that's kind of the main thing to understand about this console. This is a console entirely about custom setting up everything. For example, officially, this thing is not really meant to run PS2 and GameCube type stuff, but with enough tweaking, yeah, you can absolutely make that happen. Like it's on the menu of different consoles it can support. But yeah, this is a very unusual little device because, like I said, it's tiny. It is microscopic as far as I'm concerned, and seems to use parts from other things. The sticks, I'm fairly positive, are just Switch sticks. Like it feels like a regular Switch Joy-Con on the left, and I'm not sure if this is like a 3DS slider with a kind of 3DS nub on top on the right side. But yeah, you've got your four triggers, you've got your your dual analog sticks and stuff like that, and then you can remap anything however you like, basically. And yeah, you can absolutely import your saves from your old friggin' 500-hour plus save when you were a kid to to go play PS2 games on this little pocket device now that you're an old man, basically. Is performance all over the place? Yeah, sure. Like, officially, it doesn't even, support this, but the fact that it can run it, it's something, Now, you might have potentially seen some cases where people were showing this off, and, they were kind of having an issue in which they seem to show the same games over and over. So, like, FF10 is one of those ones that does get supported pretty well. If you liked SOCOM, that runs perfectly. If you liked MDK Armageddon, that runs perfectly. If you liked, for example, the Deus Ex port for PS2, yeah, that runs great too. Actually, that one took a little bit of a tweaking. Also, the timing is a little bit funky for some reason on the actual inputs. Like, for example, if you are playing FF10, good luck hitting that one. For some reason, it does not want to hit. Anyway. So we'll go ahead and just leave that there for the moment. Like, honestly, I was really happy to have Deus Ex working on this thing. If you're thinking about GTA, yeah, good luck with that particular one. That's definitely going to be a bit of an odd duck when it comes to the Retroid. So GTA San Andreas, the PS2 version, kind of sort of runs. Actually, because of the fact that this uses an app that It's relatively newish. It uses Aether SX2, which is an emulator that I understand was not around for a terribly long time now. Um, but the fact that it can run so many things decently well after you tweak the settings enough makes me positive that for a lot of these things, it will be able to run them at least mostly full speed at some point. Um, like, for example, if we look at, at Deus Ex here, it was extremely laggy when I first started it up, but then messed around with a bunch of the different settings and whatever else, and now it seems to run decently well. Couple of things that people were advising that I found definitely helped were basically just using a European BIOS, because I've seen some places saying that you should just go find European versions of your games. I've just basically been using the same games that I already dumped for my US discs, but I've just switched it to a European BIOS, and that seems to work just fine. So, like, for example, it does have slowdown. Again, this is not officially meant to run on this device, but, I mean, this is still Deus Ex in your pants. Actually, one quick note on the size of this device. So, you may look at the picture like I originally did and think, it's kind of crazy that that they put these little triggers on here. That seems like it's going to mess up its its size profile and things like that. Not as much as you might think. In fact, comparing it with the PSP, like, I'd say that like, compared to the PSP and stuff like that, it's very comparable. And in fact, I'd say it's like, as far as actual slim profile and stuff like that, which, again, I'm viewing all of these as dad devices. This is like those 5 minutes you get during the day to kind of go do whatever. Like, just waiting for the laundry to get done, where's my device kind of situation. But as far as that goes, it's perfect for it. In fact, the only complaint that I had was similar to the Vita. The left thumbstick would get stuck in my pocket, but the way I actually solved this, if I can figure out where I just put it, I found an old camera, not a camera bag, so to speak, but like a lens case. So just like a both a padded and kind of slick-lined case that's just like a little bag, and you pop it in there, and it's perfect. It's pretty much deals with the one issue it has, and also keeps the screen safe. Oop, apparently decided to redo the intro. Whoops. I guess I forgot to save on this one when I was testing it earlier. But yeah, I mean, like, right here, you can get your RE4s going. You can do all that kind of business. The GameCube actually emulates surprisingly well. So as far as weird issues, right? You may notice this lowered resolution. This is on purpose. Part of the reason the GameCube resolution, or part of the reason that GameCube emulation works so well, is this one is actually a little bit more advanced than the PS2 one. It's been around a decent chunk longer, and so it has the option to lower the resolution beyond its actual original base value. So, I mean, if you're, graphics-ophile, whatever you want to call that, it might be a little bit iffy for you. If you're like me, you grew up in the Game Boy Color port era, then this is absolutely your jam. I mean, honestly, I kind of love playing games at a completely crispy resolution, but again, that's neither here nor there. There are some things that I don't know if they'll ever run at a solid frame rate or whatever else. Like, for example, if we go to the PS2 versions of Armored Core, a lot of them are a little bit beyond jank. Late gen Armored Core especially it's rough. But I just want to show that it can technically run them. So again, more than possibly down the road, we might see a situation where it will be able to potentially run these with enough updates. It's the only reason I'm still keeping them on this device. Basically anything below that is going to run just fine. With a weird note on the PSP, you may have noticed earlier that it was showing up, about half the screen. What was that about? Well, the unfortunate thing when it comes to the PSP and this device is it takes more tweaking than the PS2, quite frankly. It's quite the thing. So, for example, if you're a massive fan of like Tactics Ogre and stuff like that, like I am, that was by far the most annoying one to set up. Now we're just going to go ahead and just do our original starter mission of the series here. I forget what the save file is even running. If you're curious about the process of importing your old PS2 saves, by the way, it's a bit of an adventure, but it's certainly doable. Now, as you can see, it's got some bugs. That's actually due to one of the speed hacks that the booster thing happens. You know, the frame rate is not great, but technically stable. It's just that it happens to be running a quarter of normal speed. So it still does everything fine. I'm sure there's some ways to tweak this to improve it. But as you can see, for a thing literally smaller than a PSP, I mean, it's running Nexus. My computer can't run Nexus. So, also, you kind of got to remap stuff. Like, for example, I tried to use the EO system right now, and I can't because I don't have an L3 map. So yeah, I would kind of advise switching over to PS2 controls. Also, the weird dongle that I got to actually video output this thing, for whatever reason, is just a brick that goes right over the left trigger, so I have a really hard time moving left on it. But okay, let's go back to stuff that it actually can emulate particularly well. I know this is a bit of a rambly review, by the way. It's just, I just want to go over in no particular order the stuff that I found important, and also the stuff that I read online that was completely wrong in this. For example, especially when it comes to the PSP, I just want to say, initially, it really frustrated me too. It can run PSP a lot better than you may initially assume. Oh, wait, right. Oops, wrong one. Well, not wrong one as much as just the emulator is still loading up the previous one. Actually, let me show tactics over real quick here. Hopefully, I can skip past the intro before the YouTube gods get mad at me, because it, like, every single time that the intro music to TO plays for even 5 seconds, it's just like, no, we're coming for you. We're coming for you. How dare you like this series? But for example, you may notice that the resolution's a little bit iffy. When outputting, it seems to be doing it at a lower resolution. When actually just playing it normally, it seems to be doing it just fine. So the way that I actually had to get this working, just in case you're in the same boat I was, by default it uses Vulkan. OpenGL solved that. Well, OpenGL handled it a lot better. Buffered has to stay on in order for fights to work. Simulate block transfer. You gotta turn it off to get a massive boost in FPS, which unfortunately does cause some visual glitches on, some of the random effects, but honestly it's worth it. No frame skip, because that stuff is just, it hurts my eyes. No post-processing. That stuff, again, hurts the eyes. But essentially rendering at one times, displaying at 2 times, but then also upscaling. Where'd the upscale go? Upscale, why are you gone? Come back, upscale. But yeah, upscale 3 times. Specifically the XBRZ one, the other ones it doesn't handle particularly well. But either way, it ends up coming out pretty decent. And unfortunately, you do have to get a pretty decent resolution off this, even if you aren't super, into extremely detailed graphics here. Just because we're looking at a situation where, again, it's kind of crunched down on a GBA-sized screen, and also it kind of has black borders on the top and bottom. So, yeah, it it comes out looking a little funky sometimes, is the thing. Now, for future video type stuff, I will be improving this. In fact, I wonder if I can maybe tweak this a little bit. Perhaps get it to match the resolution here. Because unfortunately, yeah, getting the resolution stuff fixed. Oh, geez, that is crispy looking. All right, never mind. We are gonna go ahead and not do that. Yeah. We're just gonna go ahead and not touch that. There's basically everything on this device takes tweaking. When it comes to anything like PS2 or PSP and above, more or less. All right, so let's go ahead and go back here. So what else can this thing run? So yeah, all this old stuff works just fine. Probably the only other one with a little bit of trickiness to it would maybe be the DS here, which actually runs great. So if you have the paid version of Drastic, yeah, you can do all your old DS games and stuff. You can just... The easiest way is just to swap the screen swap to the triggers. But for example, this is my favorite version of RE1. So, that runs just fine. Yes, it's Wayscar. Then you go over here, and then you get your screen transition, and then you back out of it to trigger the cutscene, and then you leave, and then you get to lockpick, and yada yada yada. Anyway, as far as I'm concerned, this is the best version. It's funny because you actually have a dedicated button for making microphone noise for the mini games and stuff like that. It's a little bit funny. Actually, I never have tested the knife minigame. Here, let me... There's one, I believe, guaranteed spawn of the minigame. If you never played this version, by the way, the deal is that this occasionally you'll get knife fights. Okay, so yeah, that actually works a little bit better than the 3DS, surprisingly. But yeah, you get knife fights in certain rooms. These first ones are pretty simple, but yeah, later on you gotta counter stuff and whatever else. And then if you do it without getting damaged, then you get items. I love this version. I know it's more arcadey, but dang it, I love it. All right. So yeah, every DS game I've tried on this works great, and it's pretty nice because I know my old 3DS is feeling pretty busted these days, so it's kind of nice. Now, as far as whether or not this device is actually an upgrade to your PSP or Vita, if you happen to be running those systems, it depends. As far as emulation, as far as actual overall hardware and stuff like that, yeah, it's not a question. This thing, hardware-wise, blows those out of the way, and also, I would say the profile is generally better. Now, is it as good as the PSP? No, but that thing was probably designed by God himself, so, there's that. But either way. Another thing also, I wasn't aware I actually had Discord on right now. Another thing is that I've noticed that the analog stick, especially on Drastic for the DS here and stuff like that, is not as tight as something like the 3DS. But again, that's pretty much just this system kind of problem for whatever reason. But all right, we'll go ahead and leave that be for the moment. What else do we want to show off here? Really, as far as devices go, if you don't have one yet, if you don't have a particular device in mind already, and you don't mind a little bit of tweaking, this thing is ridiculously good, almost comically so. As far as emulation and stuff goes, it's super smooth under most circumstances. In pretty much anything in its catalog, you can eventually get to run pretty darn nicely. Aside from probably having to tweak some of the sensitivity on the analog sticks, I'm actually pretty happy with how mine is right now. You can see right now, I'm going back and forth a decent bit because I believe I have something mapped wrong on it. So you definitely have to kind of expect that you're going to have to tweak some stuff. But it is actually occasionally much nicer than original hardware. I'm used to playing Shadow Tower on a PSP and stuff like that. Part of the problem with using original saves is simply because all your torches and stuff are limited and they run out. And in this particular case, it just basically loads up the save state from when I quit the game and then goes right back to it. Now, is the drifting back and forth ideal in a game that loves to drop death pits on you? It could be better, but, either way. By the way, if you've never played Shadow Tower, it's pretty freaking legit. Just throwing that out there. All right, other little things. You may notice this little bar on the bottom. So it seems like a pretty common problem that the very bottom of the touchscreen, it feels like it has some kind of protective bar or something in the way. So, for example, if I were to tap on the bottom left of the screen to hit quit, it would take a couple tries because I would have to reach around it. Is it ideal? No, but again, you just kind of get used to poking it at a diagonal. Another thing is you can actually play a lot of mobile apps on this thing just fine, so including OSRS. Now, I don't know if there's actually a way to move this over to the right. Actually, I would absolutely friggin' start an Iron Man run from scratch playing OSRS like this. Because all you do is if you turn on the virtual mouse, the right analog becomes your camera movement, and then you just kind of click around and do all this kind of thing. Apparently I had music turned off, but I can't even reach that stuff. So, yeah, not really entirely sure what to do about that. But yeah, this system could totally work for this. I'm just saying, I absolutely would Iron Man this under these circumstances. This is acceptable to me. So this is like a little compromise brick. There, you can do pretty much anything you want with it, but it tends to I mean, it will at least try to do everything that you ask it to. Anyway, so that it can run that. There's some cases where it won't run as well. Like, for example, Enemy Within doesn't officially have controller support, but it's kind of whatever. You can still play with the touchscreen. It runs it very smoothly. So I know it runs it a lot better than my phone. So I got a through some shenanigans and whatever else, just because Google will let you upgrade your phones if you're on their phone service. We ended up kind of by default getting those new Pixel 6 dealies, which is pretty nice. But yeah, I mean, hardware-wise, they're supposed to blow this out of the water, but I can't help but notice that it ended up working a lot better on this than it did on that for some reason. So you kind of want to tweak your mouse settings sometimes, because like right here you can see I'm having a little bit of trouble actually hitting my my save, because I have the sensitivity turned up because I was messing around with something else. You kind of get used to constantly messing with different things. But for example, you can just imagine Morrowind running on a Game Boy. That's more or less what's going on here. And this is a lot of games like this just have custom versions that came out, so you can just technically play them on any Android device. But I know mine came with Open Microwave already set up, which I think it's supposed to be like Open Morrowind, but they didn't want to get sued, so Open Microwave. And yeah, you just do this kind of thing. Then you get your spear, and you got your jumpies and all that kind of thing. Yeah, I like my spear lizard. It's just always what I liked on this game. But everything runs fine. I mean, like, for the sake of testing it, why don't we... I think I still have the flight scroll on here. And by the way, you can kind of map whatever you want. This is officially just the you have to use your official like Steam files and stuff like that to actually dump onto this. But it uses that exact thing. So all of the same features are here. All right, so now we jump. And now we're Fly Lizard. Now, great. The draw distance isn't great, but you can see it was able to hold up to the draw distance the loading times just fine. In fact, I wonder how high we can set the draw distance on this. See if we can get some maybe better looking stuff here. Yeah, actor distance is high. Where did we have the draw distance at? Because I can't imagine this is actual like full draw distance on this. We got that. What about would be under detail? Yeah, view distance. Let's crank that up a little bit. See how it performs. Yeah, this still seems to run fine. I mean, this is more or less how it looked like on my laptop back in the day, so that's fine. Anyway, you kind of get the idea. This is just a little brick that will attempt to do anything you throw at it. It's functionally a custom Android phone. So some stuff won't necessarily work on it. Like, for example, you might be thinking right now the mobile ports for Grand Theft Auto. Yeah. So the thing on that is they just immediately crash when you try to launch them. Just like the Vita, you get the app in order to prove that you have legitimately purchased it, and then you get a hacked version that'll actually run because Rockstar doesn't actually support their crap. So there's that. Though apparently they still will send you angry emails if you end up downloading the fix for it. So, good on them. Don't bother actually trying to fix it so it even launches on my phone, but whatever. Might be a little bit annoyed by that. I tried running a GTA SA on this, and it just would not launch at all. Apparently it's a very common problem. Same thing for my phone. But again, that's neither here nor there. I just want to show how quickly this loads, because this, again, both loads and performs better than it did on my phone, better than it did on the Vita. I mean, I love the Vita. That thing is incredible. But frankly, this thing just pretty much, like hardware-wise, absolutely wipes the floor with it. The visuals aren't as good. You definitely have to do a lot more work with this thing. I would view it as more of a side grade than anything. And if you're video outputting, then yeah, you're gonna have an issue wherein the screen is technically on, but it's also off, and you don't really know where you're pressing. So that's kind of a thing. But if you wanted to play this with a virtual mouse, then more power to you. It's there. You can kind of get the PC experience a little bit. I mean, it runs. Do the triggers do anything? No. So, I mean, it's technically playable. It's not ideal by any means, but, you can do it if you want to. I mean, if there was enough of a vote for it, I absolutely would play through it this way. Like, it's a lot smoother than the Vita experience, I will say that much. It is technically the same version, so I'm pretty sure it'll have the same bugs. But, like, as far as everything goes, you don't have the kind of stuttering every few seconds, that kind of business. So, I mean, you could do it. You could definitely make it run this way. I'm actually a little bit curious to try Cataclysm DDA on this thing. There's actually a lot of PC stuff that you can run on this. Not even the stuff that got mobile ports, but I mean, it has Steam Link, which runs incredibly solid. Now, granted, it's a little bit cheating to. Let me see if I can actually. Can I virtual mouse that? There we go. Now we just get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. Just have all these emulators running at once, and yet it's still running pretty well. You can have an option on there for it to turn off background stuff whenever you put it into sleep mode. So that's what I have it set to just close everything else upon that happening. Yeah, OpenXCOM works on this thing, so that's pretty great. Oh yeah, I was about to show off Steam Link. So, if you didn't know what Steam Link does, basically it makes your phone or other device, in this case, I wonder if it'll actually do it here. I'm assuming it still works while it's connected like this. But yeah, it'll make it so that, oh boy, this is super awkward though, because it takes over my screen, so this is definitely not the way to do it. But for example, if you wanted to, let's see, do I have Dark Souls set up? Yeah, let's just do some Dark Souls 2, why not? If you wanted to do that on this thing, you absolutely can. It's absolutely a friggin' option. It actually works surprisingly well. Like, I was able to go to the other end of the house, where the Wi-Fi is not so great, and it still ran just fine. Actually, I think it's doing first time setup. Okay, never mind. I forgot this. Abort. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and not do that, because it's just gonna be doing that for a while. Yeah, I've been redoing a lot of stuff on my computer here, so does not have Dark Souls 2 set up all the way apparently yet. But yeah, any old devices, as you can probably imagine, they work just fine. GameCube stuff works fine for the most part. You sometimes have to turn the resolution down to half. By default, it's at 0.6, but either way, it runs pretty stably. Saturn actually works too. Again, shocker. This was the English patched Saturn port. It has a few different options for different emulators on this. That part's actually been kind of odd, because like this particular one has a bunch of sound issues. I haven't been able to fully go through this to get it nice and functional and all that, but either way, again, it runs all these emulators a lot better than my computer does, so that's been pretty nice. And at some point, I'll figure out how to get the output resolution looking a little bit nicer. But until then, we have this, and it runs it, and it's great. So if you wanted the Saturn port, and for example, you wanted to trade out a, say, PSP or a Vita, the main downside of these things is, again, you have to go and tweak all your stuff to make different stuff work. So that gets a little bit iffy at times, and then additionally, you're kind of looking at a situation where these things take about a month to actually show up. So just kind of expect that going in. Like mine took, I want to say, 3.5 weeks to actually get here. So, it can be hit or miss sometimes. I don't know why the sound is currently off. That shouldn't be the case. because this was playing sound earlier. Oh well. So if you don't mind doing some tweaking and you like having all your custom stuff, then this might just be what you were looking for. If you're looking for simplicity, the PSP definitely still claims that crown. I would say the Vita is definitely going to be more impressive than a PSP, and it'll but might be a little bit more complicated to set up. And yeah, if you've got an old style 3DS, those are definitely going to be pretty good for this purpose too. But this thing, if you've got none of the above and you don't mind some tinkering, this is absolutely the thing you've been looking for. Then, I mean, that more or less sums it up. It's a device that I've gone back and forth on so dang many times. In fact, I was ready to sell it initially after looking at how the PSP visuals looked. But in time, it improved, and it got better, and fun note, for whatever reason, it seems to make the Formula Front AI smarter. So, if you like Armored Core Formula Front, there you go. That's a thing, too. Yeah, the visuals are looking a little jacked on this one. Eventually, go through and... Like, normally the way this process goes is you launch it, you figure out what the bugs are, then you figure out where to access the menu on that particular thing, which is not done particularly well like this. Yeah, there we go. I hit the button that time, but did it register? It did not. Okay, so that apparently is not where you access the menu for it. So instead, if you can't access the menu that way, then you would go back to over here. Then you would presumably find it on this list somewhere, but then you don't remember which one it is. So then you go back to the launcher. You go down to edit. Might as well turn on the virtual mouse for this to actually show what I'm doing. So then you would go down to edit and be like, well, I don't remember which one I was using, and so it's RetroArch you boss. So then you would go back to RetroArch, and then you're like, well, I don't know which one. Was it running 32 or 64, because it runs different stuff for different stuff. So we'll presumably go to 64. Yep, that one. That seems to be the one. Except now it's trying to boot into that instead, so we'll go over here and shut it off. Then we'll go to other stuff. Again, if you don't mind some pain in the ass, it's a great device. It's been a very interesting experience. Now, as far as why you'd switch this, instead of just continuing on with the PSP or stuff like that, it definitely loses some simplicity and all that, but I mean, the PSP Discord at this point, or not Discord, but even the Reddit at this point, specifically has to have a thing for what batteries don't explode these days. They don't literally explode; they just sort of wear down. But point is that they're definitely getting on in years, and I love the devices. Like, if they re-release the PSP, I would absolutely, like, day one be there getting a new one. And yeah, technically you can get new ones in box and whatever else. But again, a lot of this stuff was manufactured well over a decade ago. It's not, hell, almost 2 decades ago now. Yeah, that's a great way to feel pretty darn old. But yeah, you you kind of just can't help but notice that it's definitely getting on in years. And as far as repairability goes, it's a big factor for me personally. And these seem to use parts that are pretty readily available for the most part. So, either way. Like I said earlier, this seems like it reuses old Nintendo parts for some of the sticks. Actually, the buttons feel bizarrely just like a GameCube controller, so I'm wondering if there's some crossover there to some degree. Either way, it's just, the thing feels great. A lot of times when I pick devices, it bugs me, like how they're laid out. I thought the edges would bug me personally, but I can't help but notice that I can play this thing for a lot longer than, for example, the 3DS. Definitely can play it a lot longer than the... whoops. Apparently, Dark Souls is still launching in the background here. Can definitely play it a lot better than the Vita without a case. And it just feels good, It's just a great feeling device. The triggers bugged me at first, and I actually don't believe I ever finished explaining that. So there are mods out there to actually cause the device to, for example, use 2 flat triggers instead of the kind of wider ones that it comes with. I wouldn't actually recommend doing that. So upon, like I said originally, the shape kind of bugged me. But if you put it in a little case, right, um, and uh, and you kind of deal with the analog stick getting stuck in your pocket issue, it actually feels very nice. Because the area where the triggers are only get as thick as a PSP, right? Actually, that might have suddenly gotten very loud. Sorry if it did. So they only ever get as thick as the PSP. Um, but yeah, you can run like for example, you can run mods on this just fine. You can actually run them a lot better than a PSP could. But the rest of the device is actually thinner than PSP. Now, this actually has an odd effect to it, wherein it causes it to kind of go diagonal in your pocket. That might sound like a bad thing, but like the way that this thing is built, that's actually a pretty solid positive. Actually, a lot of the way that the buttons are laid out, like how thick they are, how much distance they have to move, and all that. I keep hearing it called travel distance. I don't know. I don't particularly like that, but whatever. Um, but yeah, it feels like it's all built to protect itself more or less. Like the buttons are pretty thick. That's not getting pushed down on accident, but they feel good to press. And also the way that the triggers are. After getting used to the kind of groove in the triggers where you hold down your button there, like I honestly, it's ridiculously comfortable. Whoever designed that, really solid. Um, but it's a little bit weird that the sound suddenly doesn't work on this, even though it worked on the last one. Strange. Not sure what that's all about. Anyway, oh well. Might be that there's some stuff that needs to be tweaked on my end. Who'd have thunk it? Also, if you've never played RE Gaiden, it's actually pretty solid. It's a cool take on this general idea. All right. But yeah, so like I was saying, it feels like this thing can actually. I wouldn't say it would take a beating because this doesn't feel like particularly robust plastic or anything. But I will say, as far as how it's laid out, if you have at least a very light case for it, I think it could absolutely hold up to a lot of travel and wear and tear and that kind of thing. So, either way, that'll be that. Hope you guys found this interesting, and hope it's useful for you. And if you have any particular questions, you want any particular thing tested, do let me know. The only kind of disappointing thing that I can say on it, like aside from PSP stuff getting a little smushed and taking a lot of tweaking, RE2 on the N64, it won't work on it. Okay, it does technically work. It just apparently it does not handle emulation very well because the thing was like it had no reason to run in the first place. Basically, if you didn't know the story behind it, they more or less took about 10% of the original file size, smushed it into an N64 cartridge, and then made a really weird, unique version of RE2. But yeah, it is. It's got a bunch of neat stuff to it. Like for example, if you want blue zombies, sure. But yeah, it's unfortunately not going to emulate particularly well. Far as I've seen, people actually have to get original hardware to even get this game to play properly because nothing will work right because of just all the workarounds that were needed to even make it run in the first place. So sometimes the controls just will decide that they're completely different on different screens. Like technically, sure, it runs. I'm currently running on a car. That's fine. Don't worry about it. This time he has a gun. Sometimes he doesn't. You know. So I mean, another case of theoretically it could possibly work this way. Could make it work. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, it's honestly again just kind of in that pile of would absolutely run it this way if somebody wanted to see the entire thing gone through this way. But certainly not the most ideal way to go through RE2. Also completely flubbed this intro, so we're just going to go ahead and... yeah, we're going to go ahead and leave. But everything else seems to run just fine. And really the point I was trying to get to earlier on the controls, by the way, is, yeah, or not the controls, but the parts on this thing and repairability and all that kind of business, is its battery holds up surprisingly well. Like I think this entire review has taken about 2% off the battery, if I'm not mistaken. And then I was running Morrowind there for like 2 hours. I think it used maybe 12% of the battery, so it's pretty robust, all things considered. But any darn ways, that'll be that. You guys have a good one. Also, I know I have a save for this? Okay, apparently that save didn't transfer. Wait a minute. Better have my A2 save on here then. Hang on. No. We're figuring this out. That goes away, that goes away, that goes away. Yeah, sometimes you have to convert your saves to very particular stuff. I know a lot of the saves had to become different formats and all that kind of thing. Come on, tell me it's in here. It has to be, right? Yeah, it's got the option. There we go. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. All right. That sounds good. All right. Just wanted to make sure they're transferred properly. I still have a lot of my old saves from a bunch of old stuff, but man, I love A2. It's just such a dang good game. All right. Actually, you may have noticed earlier, a lot of the old stuff might have multiple save files. Like, honestly, main issue with Night of Lotus is that it doesn't get enough save files. I had to copy it multiple times to give it more save files. You do as you do. Anyway, that'll be that. You guys have a good one. Take care, and I will see you later.